In this final content section of Module 2, we want to look at how do we take the know and show charts that we've developed and create daily objectives. So we've already looked very much in detail at these 4 steps, and the 5th step to do that would be, once we've developed that list of the no-show chart, to sequence those skills and knowledge in the order that leads to mastery. This again would be something that would take place as a form of collaboration. Teachers shouldn't have to do this independently. This would be a conversation that you would work with your team. And again, going back to those documents for support as needed. And then once you've decided the sequence of teaching, looking at those standards to see how do we need to adjust the language to make it reflect the criteria of a daily objective. We have specific criteria for writing objectives, and we're going to look at those in just a moment as well. So again, we looked at our standard, we looked at the specificity and gained insight there. And as a team, we collaborated, we made our list, we assessed, we analyzed the assessments, we added detail, and the next thing that we want to do is to take that no-show chart and we want to do our sequencing. So as you can see here, I have 3 columns, one for the sequence, the no-show statement or information from the knowledge and skills, and you may wish to divide this in 2 columns and keep them separate. There's no right or wrong way to do this chart. This is just what makes sense to me, but feel free to adjust it any way that you need. And then the final section is, how do I adjust that to make it sound like an objective? And I know that this will vary campus to campus. There are some administrators who like to see students will be able to, and in some campuses I know that they prefer to have teachers post I can, I will statements because the students are reading them to themselves. So again, make it work for you to fit your campus. One of the things that I did as a teacher is that I used the I can statements or I will be able to statements because I had the students write that at the top of their paper or in their journals. Not every day, but when they were doing a written assignment, that objective was often copied onto their paper, and sometimes I even printed it for them for the activity, depending on what we were doing. So the sequencing is just basically looking at those documents, thinking about what order skills and knowledge are necessary to meet mastery. So for me, the foundational thing, the most important thing that I want them to do is to annotate or to label unfamiliar words by underlining it or highlighting those words when they're reading. And then going back to that passage and labeling or annotating the context, the words, the sentence, the paragraph, phrases, punctuation. It could be structures that, if it's an informational text, what is it around that word? What is the author provided to give you help within the context? So remember, that's all we're focusing on are the context. So, and if you remember on my list, I added the words annotated and embedded because I felt like those were 2 words that I would be using a lot as a teacher, and I wanted students to understand what those words were because I'm going to be using them, and hopefully they will take those internalize that and use those words as well. And also, on my chart, I have a 4 and a 4B, and I will explain that. That's one of my little quirky things, because the 4B, that would be something that I would be teaching my English language learners to look for cognates. And we know that there are false cognates, some words that look and sound the same in English and Spanish, but they're really not. But there are many words in English, in Spanish, in Portuguese, in Arabic, even in Vietnamese and Chinese, we have some cognates. So don't take that for granted that it's just something that Spanish and English have in common. It's something that all students may benefit from. So as I'm teaching my EL students about looking for cognates, my other students may be focusing on synonyms, antonyms. How do those words fit into this puzzle? So once I have decided my sequence, then the act of adjusting the language so that it sounds like an objective. Day 1, students will annotate to identify unfamiliar words when reading a text. And then day 5, students will clarify meaning of unfamiliar words by restating or rewriting the sentence to see if it makes sense within the text. So I have developed what I feel like is a sequence from days 1 through 5 of the path to mastery. And how do I know if that is correct? Well, we have some success criteria. The first is looking at each standard. Is it measurable? Is each standard or each objective standalone? Can it be taught in one day? Is it measurable? Is the standard that I've written something that can be observable, that can be tested or assessed? Is it distinct? Is there a specific skill or knowledge that I'm asking students to focus on, or is it something that's long-term? Vocabulary. Do the words that I have used in my objective match the rigor of the standard and assessment language that students may be seeing? And looking at my objectives from day 1 to day 5, do they progress in rigor? Is it sequenced in such a way that the students begin with the foundational skills and each day they're building upon that skill to achieve mastery? So, in your spare time, if you would want to, you could take these criteria and you could take my path to mastery that I created, and you could measure them out for me and see if there's something that you would change. Do you agree with the pathway of mastery that I've created? And I will tell you that it's not perfect. It wasn't created for the classroom. It was created for this training. So if I had had teachers to discuss with, I probably would have done some things differently. So again, I want to encourage you that this is a task that should be done collaboratively. Teachers should not be doing this independently. If you are, you call me and I will be your thought partner. It's very important. But your assignment for this conclusion of this module is to continue on with the TEK that you've been working with. You just completed designing your beautiful know and show charts. So now the next step is to take that chart, to sequence your skills and knowledge, and then to write a pathway to mastery. Some of you may only have 3 days, that you're going to write. Some of you may have more than 5. Each TEK will be different. I will tell you that if there's someone in the group that has the same TEK as you, or even if they're just a colleague that you know, feel free to brainstorm and to collaborate and to share ideas with one another. That's not considered cheating. it's considered good practice. So if you run into any problems, if you need help or support with this assignment, please don't be afraid to reach out. I have provided for you a form that is optional. This, again, this may not work for you, but if it does, you're welcome to use this to plan with. You do not have to submit it. This is just something for you to use as you are planning. But your assignment is, once you've created that pathway, there's a discussion board question where you will be asked to discuss your process and to share that with the class. Again, if you click on the red pencil, it will take you to a document that you can copy to your drive and work with. Again, feel free to create your own. This will not be submitted. This is just for your working. And at the bottom, I labeled for you the criteria, so it would be a reminder. Is it measurable? Is it manageable? Does it progress in rigor? Is it distinct? And is the vocabulary matching the assessment? So as you are writing your pathway to mastery, pay very careful attention to your know and show chart and the sequencing. And if you need support or help with this assignment, please feel free to reach out.